Well, students across Zimbabwe state universities are up in arms over tuition increases by as much as 700%. The increases come at a time when Zimbabweans are suffering from record high inflation. Now, according to government figures, the annual inflation rate is currently estimated to be 106.3%, down from a peak of 257% in August. Earlier this week, 5 students were arrested and released on free bail yesterday. They're expected to appear in court again on the 29th of September. For more on this, we're joined by University of Zimbabwe SRC President Allan Chipoyi. Allan is also the chairperson of the Zimbabwean National Students Union. Allan, thank you so much for your time and thank you for joining us this morning. Just take us through exactly what triggered some of the protests and demonstrations that we've been seeing this week.
Well, thank you, Host. Thank you for having me as well. Good morning, Zimbabweans. Good morning, South Africans. Good morning, Africans at large. You know what happened? The University of Zimbabwe administration just decided to hike the tuition fee by over 700% without, the consultations with us, the student leaders, unfortunately. And as you know that we are the student leaders that have been elected into the office by the students, and it is actually not a privilege that we have been given by the administration, but it is actually a mandate that has been placed in us by the students to lead them. But unfortunately, our administration at the University of Zimbabwe is ignorant and adamant as well, to the extent that they are just deciding on the welfare of the students at our great institution without the consultations with us, the student leaders, who we are happens to represent the interests of the main stakeholders at our institution, that is none other than the students. So the University of Zimbabwe, just on the 19th of September, issued out a statement whereby they said students are now supposed to be checking their academic portal, that is known as the IMARE, so that they can see the newly pegged tuition fee. To our own surprise, we just realized that, the tuition fee has been hiked by over 700% from the Zimbabwean rates previously, where we have been paying something like 50,000 to 60,000 RTGS Zimbabwean dollar, up to a figure that is 500,000 to some of the master students having now been paying 1.2 million Zimbabwean dollars. In US dollar term, we've been recently paying a fee that was ranging from 100 US dollar to 150 US dollar. But to our only surprise, this time around, they've hiked the fees from those fees that we've been paying to something like 700 US dollars to 1,000 US dollars, without also taking into consideration of another 616 US dollars that has to be paid for accommodation purposes.
Right.
So these...
Right.
Yes.
So the sense that I'm getting is what's really bothering the student cohort at universities in Zimbabwe is the fact that there has been this lack of consultation. What is the rationale that the university has provided for hiking these prices up? Because obviously the economy in Zimbabwe is under serious strain with the inflationary rates that we're seeing, and affordability is clearly an issue at play here. So what's the rationale that the university has put forward for hiking prices to the extremes that they have?
There is nothing solid that the administration is actually giving as a basis to that irrational and unreasonable fees hike. But, they are just trying to come up with this catch and pet justification. There is nothing that is reasonable that they've actually given. We have what we are facing as Zimbabweans is not an institutional crisis, but we are being faced with a national crisis. Our parents who are government workers, civil servants, they are earning something that is actually less than 100 US dollar per month, and that civil servants are our parents who are sending us to school. So they now need over a year to be able to pay our tuition fee at the University of Zimbabwe and as well as accommodation fee at the University of Zimbabwe. So this is a problem that we are facing. There is nothing that is rationale that the administration is trying to give up as a reason to the unjustified fees hikes. You'd probably realize that most of the costs that the universities incur are what we call in business sunk costs, the costs that have been already incurred. We talk of libraries. We do have laptops that have been already purchased, the system, and you also know there are certain organizations through corporate social responsibility that offers donations to the university. We talk of Wi-Fi, internet connectivity. We do have a lot of companies, Net1, Tel1, that are offering donations to the company. We also, to the institution. We also talk of our lecturers. They are not paid out of the coffers of the administration that comes out as a result of tuition fees that we pay as students. They are paid by the government. We also have another schemes and mechanisms of our treasury and our central bank that extends each and every year a lot of funding to our university. So there is nothing reasonable and rational that can be put across as the reason why the institution has just decided to instate that irrational decision. But you know, we are very clear and we will never let that happen.
So, Allan, what do you think is the real reason behind the hike? You've outlined for us that it can't be a lack of monetary funds. You've already highlighted the various streams of income that the university has access to, certain resources already purchased, like the laptops that you've mentioned. So what do you think is the real reason why? Do you think there's something far more nefarious at play behind these recent hikes?
I can tell you, and Zimbabweans, I need them to know this. You know, I was on the day when the fees were hiked, the university was busy donating some T-shirts and caps to an event. Of course, we know that the institution should be there sometimes to offer donations, but the level at which this takes place is worrisome and very concerning. You see, on the day when they just decided to increase and to hike the fees, the University of Zimbabwe donated a lot of money, T-shirts, caps, and fuel and buses to a program of our First Lady, which was taking place in Harare as well. So you'd probably realize that the problem that we are facing, or the main reason that we are actually facing at the university, is of the administration that is trying its best to please the government that we have, the government of ZANU-PF. I can as well tell you, you know, out of that hardly end fees that we are paying at the University of Zimbabwe, the team from Zikoso, a student union that is linked up to ZANU-PF, left Harare yesterday with the buses of school to Chipoyi, Mozambique, for a ZANU-PF training workshop that they've actually attended. So this is where most of our money is being used for, which is not academic. So we are very clear student leaders, we are very clear students. We will never let this happen. We are fighting till the institution realize that they don't just do whatever that they think with our academic and our fear as well. So I think the best that we to, yes.
Well, Allan, I think the other thing that I wanted to touch on before we wrap up our conversation is the fact that, you know, it's quite clear that life in Zimbabwe has become quite untenable given the rising cost of living, the inflationary rates that I listed earlier during the introduction to this conversation. I also read somewhere that a number of students attending the University of Zimbabwe have in fact been forced to drop out because of affordability issues, not being able to not only afford tuition fees, but just life in general, the basic necessities that a student would need, food, accommodation, travel costs, etc., not being able to meet those and being forced to step away from their academic responsibilities. Just talk to us about that, the plight of students in that regard, many of them having to give up on their educational and academic pursuits.
Yeah, well, you'll probably realize that, like what I've been saying, the problem that we are facing at the University of Zimbabwe, apart from those unjustified fees hike, it's a national crisis. We do have, in Zimbabwe, the lives that we are living in is something, we are not even our civil servants are not even affording just a decent life. You'd probably realize that the life, the poverty that line of the people of Zimbabwe in general is less than $100. So you see that the problem that you are facing is not just institutional, it's a national crisis that is now actually jeopardizing and menacing the welfare of not only the students, but the citizens at large. So you'd probably realize that before even the fee hike, we do have a very, very big number of students who have been deferring simply because they were not even affording the meager amount that we have been paying. So by the virtue of the administration just, from the moon, hiking the fees by that irrational figures, you'll probably realize that more than over 30% of the students are actually going to defer, because during the time when we making the students sign a petition that we've actually submitted to the parliament, you'll probably realize that from the survey that we've been having as student leaders, more than 70 to 75% of the students at the University of Zimbabwe are coming from the low-earning families, are coming from the middle-earning families. And those middle-income-earning families cannot even afford the fee that has been just announced by the institution. So it's a national crisis.
Right. Allan, very quickly, before we let you go, we know that a number of students were arrested this week on charges of disorderly conduct. Have you been able to get into contact with any of them just to ascertain their, state of being? How are they doing? Do they have any sort of legal representation? And what's the way forward, knowing that their next court appearance is on the 29th of September?
Yes, the first bunch of students were 14 who were arrested on this month, the first day we had the demonstration at the institution. And they were detained for 2 days, at Avondale police station. But the problem that we've been having is the police never had charges against these 14 students, to the extent that they were even eventually on Tuesday evening forced to pay 2,000 RTGS fine for a charge that they now, at the end of the day, came up with of disorderly conduct. To the extent that, overzealousness of students, of just not wanting to sleep in the police cells again on the next following day, they just paid up all those fines which they were made to pay. But 2 out of the 14 students refused to pay fines. Why? Because they were very clear that they never committed any crime. They never did anything that was wrong. So they went to court on Wednesday, and in court they were granted a free bail. And on Wednesday as well, we also have another 5 students who were arrested by the Zimbabwe Republic Police. And when they get to Avondale police station as well, they were also given an option to pay fine. But they all refused, saying, we committed no crime as well. And they went to court yesterday. They were granted free bail as well. And they are returning back to court for continuation of their remand on the 29th of September this year. So we've been doing the best that we could to check on them. Yesterday we were at court offering them emotional solidarity. They are very well. They are not distracted, and they are saying the struggle for fees hike, the struggle for having the fees reduced should continue unabated.
Allan, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us on our program this morning. That is University of Zimbabwe SRC President and Chairperson of the Zimbabwean National Students Union, Allan Chipoyi.